Hey YouTube, it's Tempest CFV here. I've got another deck profile for you guys here. I've got my Gancelot Zenith deck. It's a really good deck. I kind of really like it. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take kind of a page out of my friend Zach Zag and Juan Mango's book here. I'm gonna give you guys the deck list right off the bat. So if anyone's here looking for the deck list, they can just have it to go off of, and then I will go back and explain all my card choices one at a time. So yeah, so if you want the list, I'll give it to you right now. If you want the explanations, be sure to stay tuned and stick through the end of the video. All right. So starter is Spring Breeze Messenger, and I'm playing 8 crits, 4 draws, and 4 heals. For grade 1s, I'm playing 3 Little Liberator Marin, 3 Mayrain Liberator Bruno, 4 Fast Chase Liberator Josephus, and 4 Halo Liberator Mark. For my grade 2s, I'm playing 3 Liberator Silence Galatine, 4 Royalty Liberator Fallon, 3 Flute Liberator Escrad, and then 1 Mage of Calamity Trip. And then for my grade 3s, I'm playing 4 Gancelot and 4 Gancelot Zenith. Alright, so I'm going to try and get these sorted back out really quickly. Okay, so for triggers, like I said before, we've got our 8 crits, and we've got our 4 draws, and we've got our 4 heals. Alright, there's not a lot of options you can run with this deck. My advice would be you can play more crits or more draws if you want. It's really preference, but the thing you gotta remember with this deck is that Gancelot Zenith's limit break skill requires a special counterblast 1, which means that you have to counterblast a Liberator unit. So my build has only 1 card in it that's not a Liberator. So if you want to use non-Liberator triggers, you can play 12 crit, or you can play like 6 crit 6 draw if you want, but bear in mind that if you play extra triggers that aren't Liberators, you're going to be taking away from your Liberator lineup, right? Okay. The other thing is, I see a lot of people with lists playing stand triggers in this deck. I actually wanted to try testing stand triggers in this deck, but I've been doing a lot of research on this deck, and I've been just playtesting it a lot. And what I found is that every time that I hit a trigger, there's literally been no time when I've ever thought that, gee, I wish this was a stand trigger, right? So like, don't get me wrong, stands are pretty good in this. Can be pretty good in this deck. Normally, what the play you make is you swing with 2 stages, and then you swing with Gancelot, and then throw this guy back into the deck and pull out another card. And if you hit a stand trigger, you can stand this unit back here, right? And then swing with this 4th column, right? But like, from what I found, like getting a critical trigger and giving all the crit and power to this new rear guard that you called, or just giving like the 5k from a draw trigger to it, is going to basically have the same effect. It's not going to make that much of a difference. It's basically going to be 1 stage of power, and then you're good, right? So I'm not a fan of stand triggers in here. You can play them if you want to test them out. I wouldn't play more than 4, because I think crits is just so much better. But that's just me. And the last thing I want to talk about is the starting Vanguard here. Now I am playing this guy, the Spring Breeze Messenger, but if you'll notice, I also have this guy sitting back here, Little Fighter Kron. He's the Counterblast 1, check top 5 cards for a grade 3 and then put him into your soul. This guy, obviously, when he boosts attack that hits, Counterblast 1, throw him into soul, check your top 3 for a Gold Paladin Spirit Caller, right? these two are the main starters you want to be playing at all times. Either one works. This card's great for getting you pluses and applying pressure. This card's great for helping you search for your multiple break rides and for getting your Gancelot Zenith when you need it. Either one works. I'm using this one because I'm more of a fan of it. It's got the 5k boost, which I like. But I will be testing this card as the time goes on. Now you may be wondering why you're not playing a Liberator starter. Here it is, I have one. I have this Cheer Trumpeter, and I was going to use this card in the deck. However, upon using it in testing, I found that this card is actually very bad in this pure build. I showed you at the beginning of the video, I'm playing 4 Gancelot and 4 Zenith, right? This card is only going to be useful for you if you get 2 or more calls out per turn, right? So, and the other thing is, I guess the other thing is that it's a Liberator, so you can have it into your soul, right? Josephus requires a special Soul Blast, so if you have this in your soul, you can potentially use it as fodder for that, right? But the thing with Josephus is that it requires a special Soul Blast, right? But how often are you going to get Josephus off in the game? Okay, maybe twice if you're lucky, right? This is one card, okay? If you have either of these in your soul, and you have a grade 1 and a grade 2, grade 3, and then your cross ride, you can Soul Blast your grade 1 and your grade 2 with Josephus. Like, if you hit 3 Josephus in a game, that's just like an abnormality, right? So having the starter, just for having it to be put in your soul for a Josephus, is kind of a waste of a card. Now, if you are playing, if you're teching like Alfred or Garmor in your Gancelot build, then yes, I would say use this card because you can use Alfred's skill twice in a turn to potentially get the 6k boost off this, or you can use Garmor's skill to potentially get a +3 or more from Counterblast 3. But I'm personally more of a fan of just running pure Gancelot, so I am not playing this card. I'm playing either of these two. You know, take your pick, whichever one you want. This gives you more consistency, this gives you more pressure, and has a better field presence. So that's my advice on grade 0s. For my grade 1s, we're playing 3 Marin, 3 Bruno, 4 Josephus, and 4 Mark. Alright, so for me, there's no point in playing any more than 4 draw triggers because I already have this great draw engine right here. These are just great for getting you free advantage and being 7k boosters. Not much else to say about them really. I play 4 because I think it's such a good card. But you know, you can play 3 of them, or you could not play them at all. But I just feel like getting the free advantage off of them, especially if you have an S-Crad and Spring Brief Messenger like I do, like it's just too good. So, for perfect guards, 4 Sentinels is mandatory. Some decks are playing the 1 or 2 tech quintet walls. I didn't feel like getting them because I just don't feel like getting them. And also because when you have this deck, right, when you quintet wall, you're going to be losing out on a lot of cards that you could potentially be using to call with Gancelot Zenith's ability. So I prefer to have the most of my cards in deck to use with Zenith, so I'm not going to play quintet walls. Also, Counterblast 1 is kind of Counterblast heavy for this deck. You want to try and use Zenith's Limit Break as much as you can, so 4 to 5 times per game if you can get it off. Alright, now for these cards, there's tons of options for your grade 1 boosters, right? You could play the 8k vanilla if you really want to. I don't really like it, right? And you've got tons of different, 10k Vanguard boosters, right? I actually like this ratio of 3 Amara and 3 Bruno. I was playing 4 and 2 before, but I actually really like this 3 and 3 because of a ruling I recently discovered. So apparently, the way Bruno works is when you boost Gancelot Zenith with Bruno, and you use Zenith's Limit Break, right? Bruno will actually be able to get the power boost from Zenith's Limit Break while he's being boosted, right? So effectively, he acts as a 10k Vanguard booster for Zenith when his Limit Break goes off, right? So you don't have to play Future Knight Lu, you don't have to play Little Fighter Tron, the other 10k Vanguard booster, right? You don't have to play anything else, you just have to play this guy. And he acts as a 10k Vanguard booster for you. He also acts as a 10k booster on rear guard, or as a 10k attacker on his own with Gancelot's Limit Break. That's really good, right? The only problem is he's not that good early game unless you can get an S-Crad to go off, which is why I'm playing 3 Marin. So these are really good early game, and they're good at all stages of the game. This guy is super good late game though because he acts as a 10k attacker or booster, whereas she's only a 10k attacker. So that's why I'm doing 3 and 3. I wouldn't go 4 and 2 because if you only play 2 of this, you really lose out on a lot of early game pressure. So that's just my advice for that. Moving on to grade 2s. I'm playing 3 Galatine, 4 Fallon, 3 Escrad, and 1 Major Calamity Trip. Okay, so the first thing you're thinking is, whoa, the rest of your deck is Liberators. Why are you playing Major Calamity Trip? Well, the truth is, I wanted to play 4 Cloudy Sky Liberator Geraint. He's a 9k that gains 3k when another one of your Gold Paladins is placed on your Rearguard Circle. So basically a grade 2 version of Bruno, right? But I didn't get any, and I got 3 of these Galatines instead. Again, like the same with Marin, this is way better early mid game. But you know, Geraint's probably better late game. So it's just again, you know, preference. And I might try to play it if I come across anybody who has them, like they're just gonna give them away. But for now, it's 3 Galatine. And then the 1 Trip is gonna either end up being a 4th Beat Stick or a 4th Escrad, depending on which one I get first, right? But having it as a proxy actually is not that bad at all, because of the pressure she puts in. When she hits, you can unflip 1 damage, right? That means you can potentially use Escrad an extra time in a game, or Zenith, or you can use it with Spring Breeze to get a free +5 and Counterblast. So having just even a 1 of this is actually pretty good. I wouldn't play more than that, because then you're cutting out Escrads and Galatines, and that can kind of hurt your consistency. So, Escrad at 3. I like it at 3. You'll probably see it at least once a game if it's at 3. I'm not playing anything super awesome like Bagpipe Liberator or anything else that gives stuff like when it's called. So having just the 1 to give you free pluses is fine. I would bump it up to 4, but then again I could also bump up the Galatine to 4. So it's just whatever. Either one works. Depends on your playstyle and your preference and what your agreeable lineup looks like. I actually really like this card at 3 though. And the 4 Fallon, 4 Fallon's really more of a tech choice. I mean, he's not that good. I feel like, actually, I'm just totally kidding right now, because he's the best card in the deck. He's the best grade 2. He's 12k at all times, and you need to play 4 of him. He's just that good. Alright, so last we got your grade 3s. You got 4 Break Ride, 4 Cross Break Ride. This is kind of standard, I feel like. There's a lot of decks out there that will either play like 3 Break Ride, 3 Cross Ride, and like tech like 2 Alfreds, like an Alfred and a Garmore, which can work for you. You know, don't get me wrong. I think it's pretty good. But like having this consistent 11k body, or actually 13k body with the Cross Ride, is just so good. And just having the Break Ride as well, it's just like what I'm trying to say is I don't understand what the need is for the extra Garmores or Alfreds, right? Like, don't get me wrong, they're fine cards, but like Garmore doesn't really synergize well with anything in this deck, except for like maybe the Brunos. And Alfred, while he's a good like early game, mid game attacker, or actually not even early game, like mid game, late game attacker, like the advantage he provides is not that much compared to this guy. Like Alfred gets you Counterblast 2 for 1 free card, right? This guy gets you Counterblast 1 to trade out of Rearguard, get another one, and then give it 10k, right? So this is Alfred is Counterblast 2 for an inherent +1. This guy is Counterblast 1 for a potential +1, because 10k is 2 stages of guard. That's 1 trigger out of your opponent's hand, guaranteed. If not, 2 5k shields. So it's a inherent. It's not an inherent +1, but it's sort of like a implied +1, but it's not a guarantee. You know what I mean? So I feel like this guy costs less, and his skill is, in my opinion, just as good as Alfred's. The only advantage that Alfred has is that he gains 10k when he attacks at limit break. So I guess my advice would be, if you want to tech in any extra grade 3s, tech in 1 or 2 Alfreds, and then cut 1 of this guy and 1 of this guy. But I really feel like that 4 and 4 is the best way, because it's the most consistent. So that's my opinion on the Gancelot deck. That's basically it. That's the whole list. I think I did a pretty good job explaining everything. Thank you for watching. If you have any other questions or comments, please be sure to comment below. And then give me a thumbs up if you like the video, and subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks for watching, guys.